Hello, welcome to my channel, The Grape Jelly Library, where we love to talk about books. My name is Floss, and I am so glad you could join me. How are you doing? First order of business, TableTopics. I love these because I never know what I'm going to say. What are the most important qualities in friends? I'm one of those people who believe that you should be able to count your true friends on one hand. It's not quantity, it's quality. So the most important qualities, support. They have to be able to support your decisions so long as they are safe decisions. And regardless whether they agree with your way of thinking or not. Support is a big thing. Loyalty, humor. I need to laugh in my daily existence. Just basically somebody who says, I got your back, and they absolutely 100% do. So that's my answer. Comment below, let me know what are some qualities that are very important in a friendship for you. All right, you want to know the book that I just came out of? Oh, I'm down a rabbit hole with this one. I started reading the book Life by Keith Richards, and I didn't finish it. I clearly remember it was about a year or two ago. Time escapes me faster than I can actually realize that it is happening to be going by. So it's probably closer to 2 years. But I do know I was in the kitchen and I was mopping the floor and I was looking for an audiobook to read, and this is the one that I settled on. And lo and behold, I was able to get my chores in the kitchen done, entranced by what this man was saying. And then somehow I just let it go and I never got back to it. And Alan from over at Big Hard Books and Classics, go check his channel out. He mentioned something, Keith Richards is his very favorite guitarist. And that triggered, I probably should finish that book. So I picked it back up. I actually started it from the beginning again and followed it through, and I'm not sorry that I did so. I totally enjoyed it, and now I feel like I'm in a dark place, not because of Keith, because he is like invincible. We all know that, right? So we don't worry about Keith because Keith can take care of Keith. But the references to the other musicians that were made in this book, I'm talking about Graham Parsons. I don't know anything about that man. So I took out a library book on him to learn about him. So now I'm down the rabbit hole of that, and I pulled a book off the shelf. Let me get it. Okay, I'm back, but I'm sitting on my cush in. Okay, so Capote's Women. I pulled this book off the shelf because now I want to read this one in direct relation to what was said in the Keith Richards memoir. So I am a busy girl when it comes to reading my books. I'm feeling like this. All right, slow down, Floss. I'm feeling like this. I can't read fast enough, and I can't get to all the books that I want to be getting to at present moment. I'm not always like this. Sometimes maybe it's kind of hard for me to pick a book up because I'm just not feeling it. Whatever my mood is, I just go with it. And right now, I don't really want to be doing anything but reading about all these famous, awesome people who once encompassed this earth, and what was their lifestyle about, and how did they treat others, and were they into drugs, alcohol, just what was their lifestyle, and how, if they were into the seedier sides of life, how did they escape it? Did they escape it? And what do other people have to say about their characteristics and personalities and stuff like that? So that's why I love to read a memoir. But we didn't get to this one yet, so we're going to put that down. Right now we're focused on this one. Love this, and I coming out of this book with a newfound respect for Keith. I'm not saying that Keith was an angel in this book, because Keith penned his own memoir. So he seems pretty honest and straightforward, and he doesn't seem to be hiding any of the shadier sides of his life. So I have no reason not to believe what his story is, versus what somebody else might have said. I'm going to go with Keith's version. It was a realization for me. I've never bought a Rolling Stones album or CD. My friend loved the Rolling Stones, and that was like good enough for me. If she was playing it and I was hearing it, you know, that was good enough for me. I didn't need to go own any of their material. I didn't really give them too much thought as a band. They weren't my thing. But now, as a 53, I'm soon to be 53-year-old woman, I will say I have the utmost respect for this group, especially Keith. I adored the relationship that he had with Mick. They had their quarrels, but it wasn't anything that was relationship threatening. They weren't going to not be friends over some silly little ideas. They were like brothers, essentially, and they worked well together. And I really, really, really like that aspect of it. It's very hard to find, you know, your soulmate in a friend or a partner, and then keep that person with you throughout all your trials and tribulations of life. And see, I have chills. You go in it as, you know, one, and you're coming out of it as one. And now I can't really think of Keith without Mick, or Mick without Keith, after reading this book. And I think that's a wonderful, charming association to have. I found myself watching a lot of Saturday Night Live skits and finding Mick Jagger's humor adorable, that he could actually make fun of himself. Keith's journey has been 100% pure rock and roll. And I often wondered why people say, you know, Cher and Keith Richards and cockroaches are going to be the last living creatures on this earth should an apocalypse ever occur. Have you heard that? You've heard that, right? I've certainly heard that a million times. But okay, so I can kind of see why they're saying that. They're invincible, right? They're legends. They're just meant to be around. So it would take me to the point where I'm wondering how Keith did all these drugs and he's still here today. Well, to answer that question, Keith did take a lot of drugs, but Keith knew when to stop. He picked an appropriate age, and surprisingly, he did do drugs for years, but he knew when to get out. He knew when to quit, and he had tried to quit several times, and he states each time you try to go cold turkey gets harder and harder and harder to accomplish. And he was on his like 5th or 6th cold turkey, but he did it, and he was relatively still young. I want to say late 30s, possibly early 40s. Sometime, I don't really know, So I think he said sometime 78. 78 is when he mentioned that rather than him being sick of drugs, drugs were sick of him. And he no longer had an interest in it anymore. And, you know, what can you say? Go Keith, because it's not an easy lifestyle. He makes several references in this book, one being the original founding member of the Rolling Stones, Brian Jones, and how Brian was multi-talented, but Brian also was he was an angry man, and he was very argumentative and abusive, combative, and he just stopped having interest in the band and would start making excuses why he couldn't go to rehearsals or practices. So came the day that Mick and Keith had to tell Brian that he was out of the band. And Keith and Mick actually discovered that they could write songs and melodies and choruses and chords and such. So now I'm down the rabbit hole. Who the heck is Brian Jones, and what was his life like, and how did he die, and all the such. So it's funny how one book can take you down so many avenues. I am exploring at least 3 now because of this Keith Richards book. We're going with Brian Jones, we're going with Graham Parsons, and we're going with Truman Capote. Huh. What a band of merry men, huh? So anyways, I better toodles and get to work and get that job done. And when I get home, I better get cracking on these books. Whatever you're doing, I hope you're doing it with a smile. Know that I love you. Be well, be good, be reading, and may all your dreams come true.